Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Arwin, interrupting my introduction, as always. Father of a soul and child, Neil, 10th man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Greetings.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Did you queue up your link to spam my live stream chat with, Arwin? And so she
Sorry?
That'll be a no. So before we get into the housekeeping questions, I'm going to do a very heartfelt plug for a channel that I watch literally daily. And that channel is called Arwin, A-R-W-I-J-N. And he has a show called The Flat Earth Early Bird, which goes out UK time at midday. Now that Arwin does a couple of hours a day, it means I can actually catch it daily, and I do. I like listening to Arwin's show while I'm getting stuff set up for my show, and occasionally I'll pipe up and chat. Just as a noteworthy, enjoyable side aspect of Arwin's show, his chat's always good fun to interact with the people in there. And yesterday he had Simon Dan in, which was good fun, asking about his own words that he couldn't face. Very amusing indeed. So I'm hoping that while I'm saying all of this, Arwin's going to go away and ferret up a link to one of his shows so he can put it in the live stream chat. Members only to chat, but you can still click on this link and go and subscribe to Arwin channel today. It'll be the best thing you do all day. So do it immediately. Go and subscribe. A-R-W-I-J-N. Go on, interrupt my plug for you.
Ow! Yeah, sorry, but thank you very much, Nathan. I'm embarrassed to say that I do forget to put your link of the show in the chat. But it's a little tricky because I don't get a notification until you actually go live.
Hey, don't worry about it. You're going live prior to me, so you're busy doing your thing while I'm starting my thing. So don't worry about it, other than your interruption daily during my intro. So I see the screen flashing while I'm looking at the camera. Other than that, I've got no issue with that. You don't have to share my show. It's the other way around, right? You're the smaller show. It's not beat around the bush. And there's potentially, right now, a 19,000... strong pool of people that could potentially listen to this plug and my call to action. So hopefully, as long as, yes, you finally stuck it in the live stream chat. That's the most important thing. I'll also stick it in the, the comments below, and I'll pin it. Because this is going to be subscribe to Arwin Day on the live stream. So go and subscribe today to the Arwin channel, and you'll thank me for it later.
Woo-hoo. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, there's no reason why.
It's good to have you in my chat too, because you do typically arouse a lot of special feelings. So when you get in, usually that's the start of a lot of activity, especially from the ballers.
But like I say, I dropped in yesterday, and I'm like, you started banning people, and then because I'm a mod, I could go back and actually look at the comments that had been erased. And there's people nagging you about green screens. I'm like, what the hell is this all about? I don't really get it. I scroll up a bit further, and there's Simon Dan. And all he's got to attack you on is your presentation and lack of green screen behind you. It's like, well, I'm sorry, Dan. It's not the case that Arwin's part of the mainstream bullshit rhetoric that needs propping up and recommending everywhere to everyone like you. So, unfortunately, for people like Arwin and myself, we're pretty poor and can't afford green screens. And that's not really the thing we're addressing in our discussions, though, are we now? We're discussing the lack of drift, for example. You and your reference frames have been ruined. So I got to challenge him on that. which was great. You know, hi, Simon Dan. You and your reference frames are ruined. Epic.
That's what I was going to say. But
Yep.
you said
I
it already.
missed that.
It's still there. Yesterday's show. Arwin
You see,
channel.
that's why you got to tune into Arwen. First of all, Arwen is ace. He's one of my favorite flat Earth minds. This guy's got a mind that's unbelievable. So, subscribe to Arwen today.
Wow, thanks.
Indeed, great show.
Well, when you got lack of drift, you have to attack lack of green screens.
Lack of what? I missed that.
When you have a lack of drift, you have to attack the lack of green screens.
Exactly. You can attack people personally if you don't have anything. And after about 10 or 15 attempts to get Simon Dan to actually discuss his own quoted back to him, he started attacking me and my kids. I'm not even joking. That's bottom of the barrel. Scum.
Not only that, he also attacked me for not having kids, right?
So it's all
He was
about the
trying to
kids.
shade me with that.
Exactly. We're all for talking about the drift and the claim that Earth's supposed to be turning underneath to cause a Coriolis deflection, requiring 2 reference frames you say have been debunked. Quote, you and your reference frames have been ruined, Simon Dan. Well, he didn't want to address that, but he wants to talk about my kids, Arwen's lack of kids, his kids. Just wants to talk about kids. What gives, Dan?
And his income, of course.
Of course, he wants to brag about his income. Like I say, he's being propped up by the YouTube algorithm, recommended to everybody. While we're being discussed in Congress about how we'll be prevented from being recommended to anybody ever. But obviously they can say, oh, well, it's just because I'm more popular. No, it's because we are suppressed while you are promoted. Facts. Discussed in Congress. What are we going to do about these flat earthers telling people the earth's flat? Well, we'll put a little thing below them and we'll make sure no one gets to see their stuff anymore. Well, I can type in flat earth and I still see stuff. Whose stuff? Dan's stuff. That's whose. That's why you're making the big bucks. Meanwhile, we're happy being honest. Big bucks, yeah, that would be nice. I'd rather have my honesty and dignity. And an ability to answer a quote that I've given. Unlike you. Coward. Hope it's worth it. That said, I am totally jealous of all the money you make. It's my super
But that's the thing, though, you know. Lies and money are a very toxic mix.
Indeed.
Because you think you have all this advantage with the money, but yeah, you actually have to waste a lot of it to basically deal with the lies, because lies hurt. They hurt you. And you have to constantly be worried about, are they going to figure it out? Right? It's not pleasant.
I don't
and
know.
It's going to cost you. It costs.
Nathan looked pretty dapper on the top of that building in Japan. He was making a big bucks then, huh, Nathan?
Yeah, but I had no. Oh, I didn't think we'd get into this prior to housekeeping, but there's a balance that you can strike in life, and on one side of the balance, you can earn the big bucks, which I've done. You know, I've driven around in the posh cars, earning the good money, flying all over the world, and describing my life as being like James Bond. And in a way, it was. It was a lot of hard work, and I had absolutely no time. Lots of money, but no time. Lots of toys, but no time. So then you go, all right, well, I don't want that anymore. So at a point in my life, after I've been sacked, I was like, what do I want to do next? I'm like, well, I want to have time, not work all the time so that I've got the big bucks and the nice suit and the nice car and you're never at home to enjoy any of the things that you've actually earned. Well, you go the other end of the extreme, which I did for a while on a very modest part-time job, and you've got all the time in the world but no money. So you've got to strike a balance, right?
Well, I guess what you're really saying is I want more concepts so you can get a concept car.
Well, it's proportional with YouTube. That's why I love what I do. Not only do I love the subject and making videos, it's proportional. The amount of work I put in, you can directly correlate how much I'm earning by how many videos I put out. Well, if I'm dirt poor like I am at the moment, you can see the videos being churned out. I discussed this with Arwin. I might as well get into this now. I didn't think it would come up, Arwin, but it has. So I sent Arwin half of a PayPal that I got. So someone sent me a PayPal. I'm broke. So I'm like, well, if I'm skint as all hell, there's a good chance so is Arwin, right? So I was just like, here's 5 of it. So I chucked it Arwin's way and told him I want my super chat reading out, even though Arwin prefers PayPal, so you don't get a message to actually show for it. Anyway, that's Arwin's bag, and I'm not going to criticise that. Support Arwin's PayPal. Anyway, that in mind, you can see that obviously I want to generate more revenue, more income. Therefore, I'm putting out more material. well, that means that the work I put in is directly correlated to the amount of money I get out. And I enjoy what I do, so it's no big deal other than the lack of time. So over this entire weekend, I've spent very little time with my wife. Now, the kids are there whether I like it or not, but, you know, but ultimately I'm not dedicating time to them. I'm dedicating time to editing videos and scrolling through them to find bits that I want, and finding thumbnails and making slides to go in the videos that I'm editing, etc., etc. And all of that is directly proportional to how much time I end up with at the end of the day. But if you're poor and you want to earn more money, that's what you've got to do. Anthony, I've got you not subscribing or presenting Taboo Conspiracy 3. Did you want to add something in this regard?
No, I was just waiting for you to say, is there any evidence of measured Earth curve?
Yes, let's stop talking about YouTube revenue. I moan to QE about talking shop, and now I'm talking shop when I should be promoting Arwin and doing the housekeeping questions. I am so sorry to all of my audience. Anyway, let's move on. Right. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon? Subscribe to Arwin, formerly known as Earth curve.
Not evidence of Earth curve or geometric horizon, but there is evidence that refutes the claim. So we've all heard about Black Swan. We know that the horizon's an optical phenomena, and even the ball earthers are getting the message now. They understand, even though they misrepresent it, they understand that the horizon is an optical phenomena. Therefore, there is no geometric edge. They get it, right? We get it, they get it. We're all on the same page. I just want to move the boat out a little bit further and just present this. This is absolutely wicked. Taboo Conspiracy's latest video just come out. It's had 3,000 views already. It's been out less than 24 hours. It's fantastic. What I want you to be aware of is he's looking on this lake. He's literally at one end of the lake. Doesn't matter what lake it is, but it's basically 20 odd miles, 18.8 miles. So call it 19 miles. One of them's at one end, other guy's at other end. They both got lasers and they're firing it at each other. And obviously over 19 miles, the amount of so-called Earth curve should be prominent. And now in this video, what he does is he shows that they're both firing these blue lasers at each other. And I want to just show this this image here. Now, I can probably get a better frame. There's a better frame. So Taboo Conspiracy is looking at the guy firing towards him over 19 miles away, okay? We all know, without doing any maths whatsoever, 2 cameras on a tripod or 2 lasers on a tripod at water's edge, we're talking hundreds of feet. It's about 200 feet. But he's that far away that he zooms into it. And I just want to show this, because basically this focal point in the middle is the blue light that they're looking at 19 miles away. Now, what he's demonstrating is not only is the source light there, he's also showing a reflection of the source light along the surface of the water over the whole 19 miles. Now, ball earthers will always say, yeah, but refraction explains the source light. But they can't explain this reflection, because the reflection is obviously bouncing off the surface of the water, reflecting. And obviously they always apply Snell's law for refraction. But that Snell's law also applies to reflection, because the angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection as well. So we're seeing a reflected light source all the way across the surface of the water. That isn't possible if the Earth's a ball. Yes, they can explain away with infinity refraction, the source light, but they can't explain the light reflecting underneath. It's completely impossible. Now, I just want to push it a little bit further and show you what he also shows with regards to perspective, which is about here. So what he's doing here is he's got his laser that's basically, he's trying to get the other guy in the distance. And Taboo Conspiracy's laser is obviously the one in the foreground that we can see clearly. And he's trying to get the attention of the other guy. And what he's demonstrating is how perspective actually works, because we don't understand, or ballers don't understand how perspective works. But we've all seen the grid lines where it goes down to the horizon. And we imagine it with planes. But this is literally the same thing. This is literally him doing it with his camera. Everything goes out towards the horizon. It converges at the vanishing point. It converges at the point of convergence, or every circle of confusion, or whatever word you want to describe. That's the effect of perspective. And ballers completely ignore this in their orthographic representations. So the point that I'm making is that over 19 miles, when we get to see this guy's fantastic, let's see if we can get it back on screen. This fantastic one, let's get the little bit there. Come on, a little bit more. I just want to get the source light so it's there. There we go. This is not possible if the Earth's a sphere, regardless of the horizon point, because it's that far beyond the horizon that we can't. Wherever the horizon may or may not be, we're seeing the reflection of the source light below it, and that isn't possible on a sphere. So forget about maths, forget about like refraction and all that. Somebody on the ball Earth side needs to explain this reflection underneath. What's the explanation for it? Because this is a new bit of science that we want to ask about, because their model doesn't explain the reflection underneath. So what is the explanation? And we should now move from black swan towards this, because at 20 miles away, that horizon is only 1.6 miles away, and it's clearly more than 19 miles. So how big is this ball that we're supposed to be on? Or is this all refraction looming? Does the reflection of the light underneath loom up with the light itself? So can somebody explain this? Because we're all a bit dumb. We just like to know what the explanation is on a ball, because I don't see one. Anybody got any ideas?
There isn't one. You can't explain this on a ball. You've declared that. Requesting they explain it isn't going to achieve an answer to this on a ball. It can't be achieved. So there is no science to be offered. You could potentially, if you'd got, I don't know, a lake that became very still and you got a reflection off it, you could say just about, you could call that a phenomena, I guess. But I don't think this is capable of sciencing, because I don't really see any phenomena that requires studying, other than maybe reflections, if you're going to weasel that as a phenomena. But there's certainly a logical consistency to be offered, and you've already offered it. Not capable on a curved surface. It is that simple. You have summarised it beautifully already, Anthony.
Well, I just think that now that most people do get the black swan argument, we need to now push it a little bit further and say, okay, now you get the horizon's optical. Now explain this. Because this really, if you're on their side, if you're a ball earther and you've got any honesty whatsoever, your position isn't really tenable, because the reflection debunks the claim that it's a sphere, because there wouldn't be any reflection on a sphere, because their horizon is only 1 mile away as well. That means that we're constantly behind the curve on them. How does the light get to us that's reflected? And obviously it can't. It's glorious.
Just give clarity. It can't, on their assumption we're on a sphere with a physical obstruction at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. In reality, it does, it is, and it has, and you can present it, and there it was. So no explanation required from us. There it is. It's just doing it because that's what we see. And now beyond that, you can assume that we've got a curved surface and a problem, but I don't assume that it's a problem to see this occurring. It's not. Earth obviously and observably flat, no explanation required. No, why are we seeing this required on our part? Now, if you're going to assume that it's a problem when we're just seeing something, then yeah, fine, feel free to explain why you've got a problem when we're just seeing something occur. No explanation required by us.
I have a question.
Go on.
In the beginning, you said that everybody knows the black swan argument. Everybody understands it. So let's move forward. Have you actually ever heard a baller recite the black swan argument to you correctly?
What they do is they deliberately pretend that they're ignorant and dumb. I know that they know it. They've got it. They understand it. I know that they pretend that they don't.
And I think you're going to find, if you listen to the 3/4 of an hour discussion about it on the pre-show, intermingled with a bit of Christian triggeredness. Sorry, 10th. You'll see that we don't agree with that, Anthony. In other words, to understand the black swan argument is to relinquish your ball belief. So to claim that they do understand it, but they just deny their understanding of it, I don't think that's true.
In my experience, they do. I've had them where they do admit that the claim from the black swan argument is that it's optical, because they call it refraction. So I do believe that they understand it. They just pretend that they're dumb. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe I'm giving them more credit than what they deserve. But they understand refraction, and they know that it's refraction.
Yeah, you're saying they understand half of it, but therefore, what does that mean? Okay, it's optical. Okay, yeah. Well, not geometric then. But they're not going to say that, because that's where they've got earth curve geometry to prove. Well, what do you mean, not geometric? You're asserting earth curve geometry at the horizon with a physical obstruction, tangent point, with a straight line to it. Moved, bent, refracted, optical, none of those things tie in with your geometry. So you haven't got your geometry anymore. End of sphere assertion, end of sphere geometry, end of earth curve tangent, end of earth curve. They don't have earth curve. soon as they say it's not physical, or it's not physically blocking boats, it's not obscuring things into the distance, there's no feet and inches value to be measured for this optical, non-physical thing that's moved with refraction, well, you're going to draw a tangent to it. That'll be a straight line. You're saying the line to it's bent? So no geometry. Dead on every single count. Bye-bye.
You know what might be interesting is to offer 2 minutes of uninterrupted presentation, if only they can give the logical consistency and the black swan argument correctly.
What you're saying
won't
is...
do it because it's painful for them.
Exactly, you're saying, come to our altar, kneel, and profess your understanding that the Earth is not a sphere. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying you can preach your religion freely for 2 minutes, but, you know, you have to say it correctly.
No, but they can't. That's the point. As soon as you say, if the Earth is a sphere radius 59 miles, then every distance to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon asserted in their geometry can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to horizon in the black swan is way beyond 10 miles. Therefore, we don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. We don't have Earth curve. We don't have their assertion of sphere geometry. Then they're going to go on to assert how we have sphere geometry. No, that's to relinquish their sphere belief. To understand and recite, in this example, the black swan argument is to relinquish your sphere belief. It's not that they don't get it. They can't get it if they want to retain their sphere belief.
Well, I got an idea. Why don't we start asking them to recite it and see? Let's see if they start cringing or if they do recite it. Next time a baller comes on, we focus strictly on a black swan and ask them to recite it. And we'll put this to the test.
I think that's the reason why they won't come on, because they know that they can't. Because ultimately, by saying that it's an optical phenomena rather than a geometric edge, the natural progression is that it's not the leading edge of a sphere, and they don't like it. They can't come on.
Well, as long as they can refract it without thinking of any of the illogical implications, they can hold on to, oh, this is, it might be a hologram, but it's a hologram of Earth curve. But the black swan doesn't allow for that.
That's correct. It buries the model further. So when I approach QE, why don't you just present a picture that was taken a week later or a week earlier, I forget which, that's got a picture that's clear as crystal, really beautiful, with all these flames coming off it and no distortion, looks epic. And his response was, I want them to say refraction. Why? Well, because they need a tangent. If they're saying the horizon's refracted, then their geometry dies on the spot. So you're saying in response, so long as they can say refraction, yeah, but they obviously don't appreciate how the argument then leaves their model untenable. They need a physical horizon. They used to claim it blocked boats and buildings with its physical nature. What, but that's now refracted? Well, you were only asserting it was blocking things with a tangent to it. But that line's now bent, so you're not going to be drawing any tangents to it then. That's leaving your model in tatters, debunking your model by rebuttal of refraction. Bending the line you need to do the geometry doesn't help you. Now, you're saying so long as they don't realise it doesn't help them, they can keep barking it. Yeah, well, that's what QE wanted. Keep barking refraction. Every time you do it, you bury the model further.
By the way, props to QE, because that's like a checkmate move in 3 moves.
Nobody's under any
4 moves to get to checkmate.
I was going to say nobody's.
But QE does it in 3. It makes it even painful.
Other than Globers that want to put their vitriol his way, I don't think any of us are under any misapprehensions about smarts when it comes to QE. Yeah, he's definitely an intelligent guy. There's no 2 ways about that.
So he did not even let you in on it?
I mean, let me in on it. We discussed it. I just didn't get it. So when he was explaining it to me, he was using an example prior to the modus tollens argument formulation in public form on the 1st of Jan 2020. We were discussing it back and forth. And I can't remember how he phrased it to me initially, but I didn't like it. You know, and it was paraphrased around Ben's example where if you extend out the horizon to their mathematics and derivation of an R, you end up with an Earth that's the size of the orbital path of the moon. You know, that's where the equator would lie, or beyond the orbital path of the moon in the heliocentric model. That's how big your Earth would be. Now, that's crap, because you're reifying a sphere edge and saying, look how bad the sphere edge would be when I reify it in this way mathematically. It's like, I don't like that. But then when it got rephrased into, we'll assume what you assume, Earth, the sphere, radius 3959, you're telling us, yeah, it's okay to assume R, right? West, yeah, of course we assume R. So their rebuttal to a logical fallacy being pointed out to them that they're begging the question of an R value was, yeah, of course, we already know it's a sphere. So then QE took that one step further and says, okay, if we know it's a sphere, radius 3959, as you are going to assume, because it's okay according to you, then you'd have a physical geometric sphere edge. And that's what you're arguing in your maths. But we've debunked it. You don't have it, right? We don't see geometry. It only exists in the maths. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Those are the quotes we get from them in rebuttal, burying the model further.
No, I meant the part where he said he wants them to claim refraction. You didn't know about that at that point?
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. And yeah, I didn't get it. That's why I said it to him. I wouldn't ask him to show a non-refracted image if I understood that by saying refraction it buried the model further. At that point I just didn't understand that. You know, it was being explained to me at that stage.
Could it be stated that ballers typically I lost my wording. I'll get back to you about this.
Subscribe to Arwin today.
Subscribe to Arwin.
I just finished lunch. Right, now I know what I was going to say. Could it be said that ballers basically apply intellectual bureaucracy? Right?
It can be said.
What makes bureaucracy, like in politics, in government, is throwing shit at you, busying therapy, causing you to have to postpone for so long that a whole bunch of people will be discouraged and drop off, not go for it anyway. And I think that that's really, on an intellectual level, what baller strategy is, or has become mostly. Intellectual bureaucracy.
Yeah, I quite like that.
That might be.
Go on, John.
I said that might be, but I don't think it's to deceive other people as much as it's to deceive themselves.
Spot on.
I didn't never think of.
Absolutely correct.
I think of it, but I've never heard them say the black swan argument. I've never heard one of them recite it.
But you're spot on. It's their pain.
Ever.
And they project it straight onto us. That's why I say, share your pain.
Well, they do like they really do like their misinterpretations of what the black swan actually is, though. They really like those. I've heard several trains of thinking in how to misinterpret the black swan. Like, oh, but there's a white swan over there. Or, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I can't really have any I don't have any specifics right now in front of my mind. But I've heard so many ways in how they address the black swan incorrectly. And then just go for it like it's genuine. Like, yeah, but this is the black swan, right? Even though it's been said hundreds of times. It's quite remarkable.
We should force them to say it.
I think that's the whole reason they come around flat earthers are to preach at them and tell them how stupid they are, pretty much. But you could use that to your advantage because all they want to do is talk. Tell them you'll give them their time to talk, but first you have to recite the argument.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think they'll do it. I think they'd probably shoot themselves in the head before they would do it.
Or they'll say they don't believe it.
If a ball earther came in now, then would you say that before we can get them to address the reflection underneath the laser, the light source laser, would you say that we've got to get them to address the black swan argument first?
Yeah, because I'll tell you how I'll think about the laser if I'm a baller and I've not accepted the black swan. I can just say that reflection underneath the laser is a reflection of the laser at a further point down the line because it's curving around Earth. But anybody can make up an explanation.
Yeah, but if we were to draw it orthographically and then I asked them to show me how they get the angle, it never works. Because if you try and do it orthographically, we should get Rumpus on to do it, to demonstrate it orthographically. You know, the way that he always does. It doesn't work.
Well, it never worked to begin with. The horizon's not geometric. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the original source of their pain, is understanding this.
And the source of their refraction that they're going to be applying in orthographic view, as you're requesting, it requires R, Anthony.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
And they don't have it.
I know, I understand the argument for R. They always assume a gravitational field. They always assume R. They always assume it's a sphere, curved water. They always assume those three things. I get it. But I want to see them struggle to explain it, even though we're begging the question. I just want to see them struggle. It's like when Newton's apple falls off the tree and they can't explain it with Einsteinian, even though that's the current science. They can't explain this either.
But what I'm saying is to link this to John's point, that when you know where they'll go with their explanation in terrestrial refraction, and say they loosely assert what John has asserted, well, it's going to be a position further down the line along the sphere refracted, and the reflection's refracted. Let's calculate the refracted reflection. Well, that's a bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, at that point, the refraction that they're going to apply is requiring an R value that's derived from a physical tangent point. Horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. So it links back to the Black Swan when they start applying an R-based refraction value in orthographic view that they'll tinker with to get it right in their side profile. But where'd you get the R value? Well, we got it from the geometric physical sphere edge horizon tangent point. Well, where'd you get the tangent? You're talking about it being bent. In other words, it links back to the Black Swan because they're going to apply a value that they haven't got an R value for anymore. We've debunked it. Any evidence the R value? Earth radius.
Black Swan.
Pretty sure that's dealt with.
The radius is assumed.
And debunked.
He just said, that guy just said the Black Swan's been dealt with.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety in that case?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
the same
Simon
thing.
Dan. Reference range ruined.
Bummer.
Hold on. I heard somebody say the Black Swan's been dealt with. I'd like to see where. Did I mishear?
Don't think he misinterpreting what the person was saying. He's saying any evidence of R, and then Arwen said Black Swan. In other words, we've already dealt with R. Black Swan deals with R.
Okay.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm baller hungry.
Yeah, I can tell. You're keen. You're keen. It's good. But any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Yes, Black Swan's already dealt with the presupposed spherical Earth bit before anyone else jumps in with the same thing.
Oh, that's funny that you mention it. Remember how I asked earlier, what about volcanoes? Aren't they connected to the molten iron core? Well, I actually saw this very non-flat Earth aware geology-based video about this ocean bottoms and about sort of islands that if the ocean were lower, they would be like almost continents and everything. It was a kind of an interesting video, even though it was all extremely spherical. But at some point of the animation, they actually showed how volcanoes are directly connected to the molten iron core and that the plate shifts and that's how it deposits volcanic island masses basically in a straight line over the ocean over the ages. It was all extremely presuppositional, but that stood out to me because you said no, it's not connected, but according to the geologist and their animation, it is.
I've been
according
saying
to
that for months.
according to the cartoon, no, it's plate tectonics that is claimed at the Ring of Fire based on the friction to cause volcanoes. It is not connected in the heliocentric model to the molten iron core.
Are you saying that the geologist was wrong?
The cartoon was wrong. I'm sorry. It's not even part of their
Hold on.
claim. Now, it might morph into their claim, Arwin. These things are just cartoons and reifications of models. So you can do whatever you like to them. So that might change.
but
It
it
might be
wasn't-
that they connect the
It
core.
wasn't just visuals, though. He also said it. So,
Really? Well, that changes everything.
yes, I know.
Can I ask what would a molten iron core look like? Is it red, like lava?
I can answer that from a baller's perspective.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to see it because of the intense amount of pressure. If you actually, it's the same way that blood in your veins is blue. To actually witness the molten iron core would be to mean that it was erupting onto the surface.
What he's saying
So it's
is,
blue.
you can't cut a presupposed spherical Earth in half and have a look at it in physical terms. But there are plenty of cartoons of exactly that, and it just shows it like a gobstopper.
I was just going to say gobstopper.
Ooh, I found back the video, by the way, if you want to take a look.
Do I want to see this cartoon of them claiming that the molten iron core is connected to volcanoes? Well, yeah, I suppose you can stick it in Skype and I'll check it out later to see how they're spinning this yarn. It might be a new part of the rhetoric that we're yet to see.
All right, I will. Posting it right now.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I don't know where
No,
it is
but-
right now.
If you use R, can't you calculate it?
Where are you getting R from?
That's a problem.
The alphabet.
Calculated.
I love it thrice.
You
Very
mean
sharp, very sharp.
Can you triangulate the distance to the sun based on an R value?
Right, triangulate
Yes.
a not actual location to an intangible object. Let me think.
Right.
To triangulate, doesn't it have to be tangible?
Well, technically, no. You can still triangulate it even if it's not. It's just whatever assumptions you're going to hang on to the conclusion of that. That's where it becomes a little fuzzy.
Well, even when you do triangulate it, it's not its actual position either. It's refracted too. So you can triangulate its actual position with an R value, but not its apparent one.
Hold on.
What?
Hold
No,
on.
you can't even triangulate it if you don't use an R value. You
No, that's
cannot
sneaky.
engage in triangulation.
Don't let that get past you, Owen. That was quite sneaky, John. I like it. So what he's done is he's removed the assumption of physicality by one step. So he's saying it is still physical. It's just that the position we see this physical sun is refracted. So it's still physical. He didn't say it 3 times like I did. He just carefully slipped it in with an assumption after the fact by way of stating, well, no, this position we can triangulate, he started with. Oh, can we now? Good Globe roleplay, by the way, John.
Well played.
But yeah, you got to learn to stick it in the beginning, or other, and then you can claim that they're like rumpusing you or cutting you off if you don't get to finish.
Their claim is there is no refraction at the zenith position.
No. Sorry, 10th. So the assertion is, how do you triangulate a not actual position, refracted or otherwise? Yeah? It's an apparent location. And the item itself is intangible, not touching it. So when I say you can't, the trick that John's employed is to say, when I can triangulate it, and then give a slight justification why the physical assumption of a physical body in the sky isn't quite in a position that you could triangulate it, even though he's just said he can. And why? Well, because it's refracted. What's refracted? The physical, capable of triangulation sun that he's now described with a little sidestep by way of refraction. Correct, John?
Yeah, you got it. You've seen this before, huh?
But if I throw back in their face that their claim is that when it said it's zenith position, there is no refraction, what say then?
Well, that's the only time it's not.
Okay.
Good answer.
I'm going to call you father of a stolen ball. If you keep
Hold
this
on,
up.
he's just got 10th on the ropes. So now you're into his assumptions, 10th. Where are you going to go from here?
I'm not into his assumptions. I'm going to use the sextant and destroy everything.
Hold on, he just said if it's above you, there's no refraction. That's what he said, right? Unless I misheard him.
Right, but that doesn't prove you're on the ball.
hold on. He's successfully sidestepped you. So he's saying that there's now a circumstance.
How does he sidestep me?
Because he's now got a circumstance where there's his assumption of its physicality, and then his declaration that it's not quite in a physical location because it's refracted. Now he's given us circumstances while we're under the assumption of its physicality that's not been addressed by you so far, 10th, and it's not refracted. It's directly above him. So he's got a tangible position now. Have you, John? It's tangible now. It's over your head, so it's tangible.
Yep, not refracted there. So physical.
Oh, right. There's a big assumption that we're not addressing.
It's a dirty trick. I shouldn't have done it, Tim.
No, it's perfect.
No, I don't feel like you got me on anything. I'm not even talking about that. That's the problem.
Okay.
Someone else can come in from a different angle, and you guys think you got him, but you ain't got him because I'm talking from the other aspect.
Now, I'm giving him props because we're at the stage now where the panel is so proficient in globe arguments that we can calmly disseminate with all of the logical fallacies, sidestepping, obfuscation, minus the rumpusing, and give a clear rendition of a globe argument, which has been done by John, with a little tactic thrown in for good measure. He's also given me enough air in between his claims, and I've given him enough time to actually make them, so that the audience can hear the position being presented, as it would be presented, then the pulling apart, but with a concession at the end, him like, yeah, it's just a dirty trick. Well, when do we get to that stage ever with an actual opponent? Well, we don't, but as I say, props to the panel, because now for an audience member, they've just heard that all played out. No rumpusing, very concise, and concise within the deception, within the argument structure that they'll use and do use. It's just John's good enough to actually know how it's done, do it, and give me the time to respond to it, and concede at the end. You know, to have joy. Hallelujah.
Well, it's all.
I feel I should engage in Anham right now, but
it's all in the model. Let me read something. To predict the position of a star, one has to account for atmospheric refraction. In a simple model, the atmosphere is treated as being composed of layers of gas with variation in density and temperature due to height, but no variation with latitude or longitude and no turbulence. In such a model, one can predict the position of a star to a great deal of accuracy. So it is a useful model. And in this model, there is no refraction at the zenith, as the light doesn't pass at an angle through the medium of varying optical density. The model.
Yep, spot on. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Good to have you. Been a very productive show. Very educational. Those of you watching. Mainly due to... Go on.
No, I was just saying, running out of work, mate. I was just hoping to get here before you disappeared so I could get in. What we covered then?
Well, we're covering...
Taboo conspiracies.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam. Anthony.
We covered Taboo Conspiracy's latest video with 19-mile laser observation with reflection of the laser underneath the light. Have you had a chance to view it?
You know, no, but I will be doing after this.
It's glorious.
Brilliant.
So what I was just pointing out that if the Earth's a sphere, because of Snell's law, they always use the angle of reflection equals the angle of incidence. The angle of refraction equals the angle of incidence, but because that also applies for reflections, it isn't possible to get a reflected light underneath the light source on their model. And I just really want to see somebody explain how it's possible, because we all know it's not, because it's not part of their rhetoric to explain the reflections underneath the light source.
And from there, Adam, we went to them asserting refraction and a challenge from Anthony for Rumpus to present it in orthographic view, only for Father of a Stolen Child to point out that you need an R value, which they can't acquire. Black Swan debunks that assertion, therefore you can't then refract the light with an R value that you're going to weasel and manipulate to get it to look right in your model. Anthony's response to that, well, even if you could, you can't do that with a reflection. So ends the argument.
Yeah. See, this is where it's good cop, bad cop, because like Nathan doesn't like begging the question, and I don't mind begging the question just to see them get tangled up in all their nonsense. So it's like, come on, Rumpus, join and let's see you explain it with your orthographic view. And we all know he's not going to be able to do that. It's ridiculous to think that he could. He's going to have to come up with some new form of refraction where it bounces off the ionosphere or something.
I think that would be a great idea for Rumpus, but I think he should have to recite the argument of the Black Swan first, correctly.
Arwin in the chat says he's going to have to change his name to Father of a Stolen Ball. And I don't want anyone else on the panel to take this personally, but you are an extremely valued member of the team because of your recent transition from Globe. I know we discussed that you would troll Morgile as a Globe head, but it means that you've somehow, unlike most people who are slightly overwhelmed by the fact that they've had this epiphany, this realization, they've come to their conclusions, whereas you've managed to retain your ball disposition. You can access it. And there's so few people that can do that who are flatties, and let's make that clear. There's plenty of people who can access it as a globe-believing fundy, but you're not one. So you're very unusual in that respect, and it's a tool that I can't get enough of. So I just want to say a big thank you to John.
Huh. I didn't even know that. I don't know. When I heard him first time, I thought, like, yeah, of course this guy's been a flat earther like since 2015 or something. Right?
No,
You didn't know that, all?
I had no idea. Sorry.
No, I thought it was the Black Swan that turned you, weren't it, John?
that's correct. Can you just give us a quick, just because I like hearing it, can you just recite your recent transition path, if you will, from globe to flat, if you will, John, father of a stolen child?
Well, I kind of remember everything. I was in the kitchen cooking breakfast. I was listening to it on my phone. I heard the argument the first time, and I actually rewound the live stream because I felt like someone had hit me really hard, and everything went stiff. I couldn't breathe because I don't know why I chose to listen at that moment, because usually I'm, laughing and making fun of everything. But in that moment, I actually, it got through, and I don't know why other people can't, but so I pretty much stopped doing everything, and I listened to the rebuttals, and when they said refraction, it just, I couldn't do it no more. It's like you can't refract that. You don't have a constant if you refract it.
So from that position, you're a baller who suddenly realised the stark and real truth in form of modus tollens. Your model's untenable, so obviously by default, understanding the argument means you're going to transition because you've got an untenable globe sphere belief with an unmanageable geometric physical point to get the R value, or claim that boats are blocked by it. All of those things fall by the wayside as soon as you understand the argument. Now, as I've just said, the fortunate thing about Father of a Stolen Child is that he can still position himself as that glober trolling Morgile and give us their argument back, because he's had to fight it when he was in that position. He's just managed to remember it all.
It's funny,
By the
though,
way, the
Ruth, isn't it,
mobile
that
is back.
Sorry, go on, Adam. Sorry, Neil. Go ahead,
we've
Adam.
discussed in the past about how long will it take for a baller to get the Black Swan, and Neil, to me, John is the answer there, is they'll never get it, because as soon as they do, they stop being a baller.
That's exactly what we were discussing in the pre-show. Unfortunately, we had Allah dragged into it, and we were discussing some religious aspects that didn't need to be dragged in. Now, if I hadn't mentioned, it's all my fault. If I hadn't mentioned Shiva, then it wouldn't have been brought up as an example. But yes, exactly.
Come on, say it the way
what
Father
about
of a
this?
Stolen Child said it.
No, Neil, someone get him, gag him, quick.
You forget in the pre-show we discussed the sextant and geometry that validates the Black Swan.
Indeed, we did. Let's stick with that.
Yeah,
No,
get your
but
many
listen,
get your many arms back on the subject, Nathan.
Father of a Stolen Child said he felt physical pain. So the Black Swan, it's like remember when Tyson was in his heyday, just knocking people out to the point where they had no coordination. They tried to get up and they kept falling down. That's what the Black Swan will do to you.
Have you ever had a swan like peck at you and like hit
My
you?
daughter
You
was
know how
attacked by a swan.
That's like, they're really strong.
Yeah, she was cornered by a swan.
Right. So don't mess with them, because they will F you up.
Well, before this conversation goes to the birds, let's move on.
Any evidence of gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I'd like to see it.
None.
Oh God, was it Blue Marble Science got in my chat and claimed today that no, gravity is strong enough to keep the gas pressure on the wall.
Not a force.
Oh.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, hang on.
Yes,
Based
the
on
gas
that,
is pressing to the ball, so it has to be there.
There's the
Anthony,
evidence.
Anthony, are you here?
I am.
Gas does
So
not
if
go
you-
down, go boom, boom, Alwyn.
If you take the cap off of that soda bottle, does Blue Marble's gravity hold the gas to the sides of that soda bottle work?
No, because the bottle goes flat, doesn't it? If gravity was holding the gas pressure in, then your soda would always maintain some element of fizziness, but it doesn't happen, does it? It goes flat within a few hours. But yet we're in a gravitational field. I find that would be a paradox. You can't have soda bottles going flat if we're in a gravitational field that's pulling back gas pressure.
So you're saying gas does not go down, go boom, boom, like solid, bonded, bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, as asserted by a PhD clown named Thunderfoot?
No, it would be silly to think that gas particles behave like solids, because they don't. Solids don't continue bouncing off everything with elastic collisions at high velocity and continue on their trajectory, conserving their momentum in accordance with the gas laws. Solids, they behave like bouncy balls. Gases don't do that.
I want to give a shout out to Sleeping Warrior, who's always available for a pop quiz.
Pop quiz.
I just got it.
Boom, boom.
Took me a while.
Right.
What about scientific
I
evidence?
argued extensively today about the gas pressure thing, and I did so also on 24/7 Discord yesterday, because there were people that were really having trouble understanding it from an honest perspective, and just there's so much mixing up as to the nature of the basic states of matter. There's so much mixing up into just the basics. All of it could be written down on a singular piece of paper, but yet out there in the world, everybody's confused about this. A lot of people are. They think that gases function just like the rest of the states of matter, and they don't. Right? Gas only displaces because of pressure differential, because of other gas surrounding it. That's the only reason it ever displaces. It doesn't have momentum. You can't throw gas just as is without a container and it will retain its motion. It never does that. It just responds to the pressure differentials, however it's arranged. And that's it. And people seem to have a lot of trouble understanding that. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, so gas does not go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls. It expands exactly as Anthony described, in all directions at high velocity until it strikes something, either another particle of gas or the walls of a container. If we have a sky vacuum, then that's a space for gas to fill. And gas expanding in all directions will fill any availability of volume it has to fill. That's entropy
Isn't it
increase.
interesting? Sorry, isn't it interesting that they apply conservation of momentum when it comes to Coriolis, but when it comes to gas molecules bouncing off each other with elastic collisions, they don't do that. They completely forget about the conservation of momentum when it comes to that. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, other than that, that's their contradiction, doublespeak religion, that they have to, what's the word, suffer in cognitive dissonance as a result of us being here, pointing out the contradictions.
The pain of being a blurther.
Yeah, it is. Mental pain. Absolutely.
As we're getting towards the end of the show, I think I'll just give it a quick plug. Because obviously we're all on lockdown at the minute, we're not allowed out to play. I believe, according to what I believe I've heard, we're looking at sometime in June to be released from our prisons. Well, I'm planning on, based on Taboo Conspiracy's latest video where he's got the 19-mile observation, I'm planning on going and doing an observation at 31 miles to push the boat out a little bit further. Because 21 miles, 22 miles is the other one that he's done. I think to 30 miles is potentially doable. Maybe not, maybe so. I'm going to do the same observation that he did, but I'm going to do it over the Isle of Man one. And I'm going to do it when we get released from jail. So anybody in the UK that fancies coming up for because there's a pub on site with grub and stuff, so it's just basically a shindig. I'm gonna get the guy in Isle of Man. His name's Paul. He's gonna get a laser in his end. I'm gonna get a laser in my end. We're both gonna look at each other with P900s and see if we can see each other. It relies on the ocean or the sea being a little bit flatter than tidal, because sometimes it can be choppy. But essentially 30 miles. Yeah, I'm up for that. So just a quick plug for what might be happening if we get released out of our jails. Although obviously it's a bit subject to Boris making his mind up, but it's definitely on the cards.
Did I hear you mention
Sounds
free
fun.
bar?
Not a free bar. There is a bar on site.
Oh, I heard that too. I don't even drink, I'm just joking.
But I'm gonna do a recce to see if we can actually get it like in a, because obviously 30 miles is a lot. It's a big distance to go, and it's picking out a little tiny pixel in a wall of blackness. It's not that easy to do. So I'm gonna try and do it a couple of times, but beforehand to make sure I can actually do it. I don't want to try it for the first possible time and never get it because it was impossible because it was too small. Because of the angular resolution limitation. Yeah, that thing that Simon Dan ignores when he puts out his observation claims or his challenge. I'm going to make sure we can do it.
We have all the housekeeping questions. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
9.
They're not really interested in doing that. They just want to continue the story and then get people away from the physical reality and more towards the story. So why would they try to define something through science? That would be against their interest.
Well, they use the
The
term.
level of
Go on, whoever that was.
the level of cognitive dissonance when it comes to thinking of all these questions and their answers is kind of mind-blowing. It gets me like at least twice a week I think about it. It's kind of nuts.
But you think about their cognitive pain and holding two positions simultaneously on various subjects.
Yeah, like consider like any of these questions. Like we understand the end result, the ramifications of the answers of these questions, and we're honest with ourselves with them. But some of the people who come here who argue for the ball side, it's oftentimes like pretty ridiculous, hearing the supposed rebuttals that aren't really rebuttals, but it's really just them working through their cognitive pain of one level or another, whatever stage they're at. And it's bizarre to me that like these questions even still need to be asked, but I understand their place. Like they're amazing questions for that reason. But it boggles my mind sometimes. That's all. Hopefully I'm not the only one.
Yeah, people used to claim shills and paid opposition and all this. No, people will retain on to their faith because it's really difficult to relinquish, and they'll argue in cognitive pain to the degree that we see without any financial incentive to do so. You're talking about people in their religious faith, and they'll fight to preserve it.
If I may, I have a small piece of testimony from myself back in the past, because this kind of weird sophistry, double speaking, it's not unique to just YouTube, okay? This sort of stuff, even from person-to-person communication, has been going on for decades and decades. And back in the past, when I still believed in the ball and I would listen to these guys in order to find more information, right? To figure out what's out there, I got really annoyed. Like, why are you thinking it's okay to have blatant doublespeak about something just because you're not sure, right? It felt to me like you're covering your tracks when you should just be honest and say, I don't know really. I haven't figured it out yet. And I got really pissed off against so many people doing that. And now I'm looking at it from a flat earther perspective, and I realized, like, holy shit, they have to do that. They have to round it out like that to keep people indeed actively stuck in a cognitive dissonance where I never went. I never went into that even as a baller. I was just annoyed by it. Like, why are you being so blatantly wrong? And why don't you just admit you don't really know? Right?
Yep. Why don't you just say, I don't know? They can't because their pride gets in the way. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!